Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming to the regularly scheduled Ways and Means Committee. My name is Abdi Warsami. I'm the chair of the committee, and with me on the dais today are Council members Johnson, Fletcher, and Council Vice President Jenkins. And we have a quorum, and therefore we can dispense with our business today. We have 33 items on consent, and they are as follows. Item number 1 is the 2020-2023 Professional Services Agreement with Minneapolis Public Schools for election administration and related support services. Item number 2 is the Resiliency in Communities After Stress and Trauma Program Grant from the United States Department of Health and Human Services. Item number 3 is the 2019 Property Tax Special Assessment of Delinquent Utility Charges. Item number 4 is the third quarter 2019 donation report. Item number 5 is a gift acceptance from Deloitte Services LP for Lyle Hodges to attend the Minneapolis Finance Leadership Program. Item number 6 is the early approval of 2020 and 2021 capital budget appropriations and bonding authority adjustments for the Public Service Building Project. Item number 7 is an agreement with Formation Studios for sculpture and related work at the Public Service Building. Item number 8 is a contract amendment with Crawford Door Sales Company for Public Service Building Project. Item number 9 is a contract amendment with RTL Construction for fireproofing work for the Public Service Building. Item number 10 is a contract amendment with Knudsen Construction Services, Inc. for concrete superstructure work for the Public Service Building Project. Item number 11 is a contract amendment with Top All Roofing, Inc. for roofing work for the Public Service Building Project. Item number 12 is a contract amendment with Kendall Doors and Hardware, Inc. for additional door and hardware supply for the Public Service Building Project. Item number 13 is a contract amendment with Empire House, Inc. for additional costs for interior glazing work for Public Service Building Project. Item number 14 is a collective bargaining agreement, Stationary Engineers Unit 2019 through to 2022. Item number 15 is a procedures for setting compensation levels for mayor and city council members ordinance. Item number 16 is applications for environmental grant funding in the fall 2019 Brownfield grant round. Item number 17 is the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development Redevelopment Grant Program, and this is August 1st, 2019 grant round. Item number 18 is a Pathways to Prosperity Grant for Information Technology Career Pathways Training. Item number 19 is a revolving loan fund for Fortis Capital, Living Cities. Item number 20 is a contract amendment with the University of Minnesota for computer-aided dispatch services. Item number 21 is a contract amendment with Bentley Systems, Inc. to upgrade the current version of the Bentley Enterprise license subscription. Item number 22 is a contract amendment with Clockwork Active Media Systems, LLC, for website consulting services. Item number 23 is a contract amendment with DataNet Systems Corp. for the Legislative Information Management Systems. Item number 24 is a contract amendment with Medica to provide medical plan options for Medicare eligible retirees. Item number 25 is an agreement with the University of Minnesota and Minnesota Historical Society for record storage partnerships related to the Stonewall Oral History Project. And item number 26 is reducing in-housing improvement fees for the condos on Blaisdell Project, 2500 Blaisdell Avenue. And 27 is a lease with Greenway Solar LLC for roof space at Eastside Storage Maintenance Facility for low-income household community solar garden installations. And this will be at 2635 University Avenue Northeast. Number 28 is the joint powers agreement with the Police Department and the Department of Public Safety, Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, to conduct state and federal fingerprint-based background checks. Item number 29 is the Metropolitan Council Municipal Infiltration and Inflow Grant for cured in-place pipe lining and sewer repairs. Item number 30 is a contract amendment with Park Construction Company for Broadway Street Northeast Street reconstruction project. Item number 31 is a cooperative construction agreement with Hennepin County for traffic signal reconstruction. Item number 32 is a bid for vault and manhole replacement project. And the final item, item number 33, is a bid for Loadmaster Packer parts and services. And is there any discussions on these items? I see Council Vice President Jenkins. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Osami. I have a couple of questions. I was trying to get a little more clarity around item number 19, the revolving loan funds for Fortis Capital / Living Cities. Is there anyone to speak to that?
Item number 19, the revolving loan fund for Fortis Capital, and we have the man to answer that question, Mr. Frank. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, Council Vice President Jenkins, the short background here, and happy to answer any further questions, is that earlier this year, Living Cities, a consortium of foundations, approved a $2 million grant for a revolving loan fund targeted towards small business lending throughout the city, primarily focused in North Minneapolis. And they wanted to have that grant go to a new nonprofit entity. That entity was formed. It's called Fortis Capital. And one of the requirements of the Living Cities grant was some match from the city of Minneapolis. So what is on the Ways and Means agenda today, and which EDRS approved in this cycle, is a $500,000 forgivable loan. So if certain conditions are met and other conditions don't, if other things don't happen, the city will forgive the loan and will turn into a grant, if you will, if that answers your question. Otherwise, here I am.
So just thank you. For clarity's sake, is it a total of $2 million or 2.5?
Mr. Chair, Council Vice President Jenkins, it's a $2 million grant from Living Cities to Fortis, and a $500,000 grant in addition for a total of $2.5 million combined from the city to Fortis Capital.
All right. I think that answers all of my questions. I did have another question about item number 25, but I'm not sure. Councilman Palmisano, do you have more about item number 19?
Item number 25.
Item number 25 states it's an agreement with the University of Minnesota and Minnesota Historical Society for record storage of the Stonewall Oral History Project, and I'm just trying to get clarity if all of the ownership of the materials that are being sent to storage have been resolved. I know that
Good question.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, Council Vice President Jenkins, my understanding is that...
Can you introduce yourself, please?
Sorry, yes, I'm Track. I'm the Trans Equity Project Coordinator in the City Coordinator's Office. My understanding is that we have gotten a signed we have moved a signed contract through at this point, so all the ownership is clarified, and that the city will also always have ownership by virtue of the data practices. By virtue of the data practices law, anything could be public data and is therefore still associated with the city, but everything will be taken care of through the Treasure Archives at the University of Minnesota. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that does. So thank you for that. And then I guess my last and standing comment is that we just have lots of sort of amendments to contracts, and it's always concerning to me that
Thank you.
continue to look here.
Yeah, and then mainly with the public service building, and we have our interim coordinator here. Go ahead, Mark.
Sure. Mr. Chair, Council Vice President, we hear you, and Greg Goki is here. If you want us to walk through those amendments, we are happy to. We are well aware of and work closely with all of our partner organizations, specifically civil rights, procurement, and our architects, and can explain the rationale for each one of those, and to be able to give you an update as to when they required or did not require any kind of SUBP modifications. But it is clearly on our radar and something that I have asked our staff to pay close attention to, so that there are no surprises for you. So we can either do that offline if you would like to, or we could do that through the committee today if you'd like to as well.
We can do that offline. I just want to continue to express, concern and really try to get a handle. I mean, it just seems like many of these projects haven't even begun yet. Glazing, the interior glazing. Right. And so,
yep. So, Mr.
seems
Chair,
like the bid could reflect the true cost of the project.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Chair, Council Vice President, I think when it comes to the public service building, this is a very large and complex project, right? It's not like resurfacing a street, and I don't mean that in any bad way, because I'm not trying to assign relative value, but it's not something we do over and over again. It's not the same product. And so most of these changes are because, in the modifications of the contract, are because a couple of things happen. One is in engaging the architect more fully to realize some of the benefits we want to see out of this building, we actually, after the bid, change the specifications. So it's something that we initiate as the client to say we want to enhance this building based on information. Sometimes the opposite is true, which is the bidder comes in after bidding and says, listen, you have an inconsistency in your documents, and that's mostly related to the architect or the engineer. And we need to resolve this because it was not clear in the bid documents, and if it needs to be resolved, and that's why we employ Mortensen as our construction manager as agent to also be in the middle of that, which is essentially a mini mediation about whose responsibility is it and who's going to pay for it and what's the best outcome. So we have parties who are third parties who can say whether the bidder's questions and expectations are rational or whether they're just trying to get more money. Right, because that's always the concern, is the bidder will come in low bid and then try to mark up everything. I can assure you that with this building, we are very, very well equipped to fight against any of that particular situation. And then the last conversation, which I alluded to, is if the changes occur on a bid, do we go back and say to the bidder, you need to go back and reevaluate your workforce and your women and people of color owned businesses, right? So that is a conversation that we have with civil rights. We are close to being at the end of the bid process, and it's our plan to come back to this committee in a fairly short order with an update to you on where we are on the larger picture goals, which is how are we doing on our workforce goal for people of color and women? How are we doing overall when we assemble all of the bids with our SUBP goals, and how do we compare to other kind of similar projects? So we owe that information to you, and I hope that will help. But I mean, it's a long explanation, not because of defensiveness, but because this is a complex project, and your kind of questions that you ask deserve a longer answer.
No, I appreciate the response, and my intent is to just continue to keep us thinking about these issues, and hopefully we can get some clarity and resolution to some of these concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilmember Palmisano has a question or a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just ask, could we take and vote on item number 19 separately? I have a lot of questions about the creation of Fortis Capital. I'm really pleased that Director Frank engaged the consult and the advice of our internal audit team in the process, and I'm super grateful for the immediate time before this committee that we sat and talked about it. It was a bit of a rushed conversation, so I'm just not yet ready to authorize this expense on number 19. I'm going to abstain from that vote today, but I do promise to have all the conversations that I feel like I need to have by the full council. So I'd like to abstain from item number 19.
Okay, all right, thank you. And Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a question on number 19. That 2.5 million, is that, as you were talking about this, is that the same that's in the proposed budget for the mayor? Because I see the no on that. Okay.
Mr. Chair, Councilmember Johnson, no is the short answer. I believe you're referring to the $2.5 million Commercial Property Development Fund,
yes,
which is a real estate tool as proposed and conceived, subject to council consideration. This $2 million from Living Cities and $500,000 from Minneapolis, should the committee and the full council approve it, is for small business lending, so different outcome and different funding source.
Great. I appreciate the clarification, and I'm glad with that answer. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more comments from my colleagues? Okay, no questions or comments. Seeing none, I move approval of items 133 minus item 19 first. All those in approval, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Those are being approved. And now I bring forth item 19. Any discussions on that? Seeing none, I make a motion to approve that item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Those abstaining?
Aye.
All right. So that you have 4 ayes and 1 abstain, and that item has been approved. Since we have any other discussions or any comments from my colleagues? No. Since we have no other items on our agenda, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.